In today's video, I speak to the Aspie World. He is a YouTuber with 122,000 subscribers, a public speaker, and he is a best-selling author. The Aspie World has autism, OCD, ADHD and dyslexia. In this video I speak about coronavirus and how it's affected himself. I speak about some coping strategies and generalisation ideas that people have about autism, and we also get in an in-depth conversation about OCD and how it affects the both of us. I can honestly say I've never met anyone and had the connection I did with the Aspie World in regards to my OCD. We seem to do similar stuff and we had similar thought process for doing those things, and I found it a really interesting conversation. In this video I think not only we learn more about other conditions, but we also learn how they can link to autism and how the autism can affect us more with those added conditions. I also speak about employment, schools, universities and the world in general, and what the Aspie World thinks that we all could be doing to support people with conditions. Hi guys, and welcome to unfortunately the last episode of MaxiAspie Specials, the Autism Connections. This is obviously the last video of the Autism Connections Series 1 for now, and obviously not the end of the MaxiAspie videos on the channel. But today we have a special guest, as you can tell by the introduction. So guys, please welcome the Aspie World. I just wanted to say first of all, thank you for coming on and talking to me. Obviously, I watch your videos and seen, loads of the stuff that you do. I checked out your website as well and found out some new things as well. So it's like awesome. But my first question really was, I suppose, how has coronavirus at the moment affected you, and I suppose your life?
I think the lockdown, obviously. Two parts really. The lockdown itself impacted our lives here because we are used to, going out to the stores together. So we get food buying, like shopping, like groceries and stuff like that. We'll go out together, and kind of my girlfriend's with me because she helps kind of like with the organization of the shopping and things like that. But since the whole lockdown thing, I'm like the only one nominated to go out and do all of the shopping. So we have to kind of like prepare in the house before going, and then also getting to the stores, wearing masks and gloves. And then there's this whole social distancing thing where, Tesco's really strict on it and you have to queue up, and it's very, so I find myself completely like just, full of anxiety, going to the stores, trying to just get daily, shopping or whatever we need to do grocery wise. And I think that's like one of the main ones. And the other one is the restriction of not being able to do anything that you want to do, So if I feel like, I'm going to go and see my parents, or I'm gonna go for a run, I can't just willy-nilly do those things, which is super difficult, obviously. And the scare and like the scariness of the whole situation, I think the whole thing on a whole just has like a weighted pressure mentally. So like I find myself like just super kind of like feel loads of pressure but for no reason.
No, I get that as well. Even though at the moment I'm still working and I'm working from home, even that whole dynamic for me is weird, because I'm used to getting up, getting in the shower, going, getting in my car, driving, and even though a lot of people will moan when they're at work about, why can't we just be at home and things, the whole kind of moaning has shifted now to, why can't I be in the office, and I suppose I'm asking this to everyone because
yeah, definitely.
My question to you was, obviously I'm not very aware, and I'm probably sure a lot of other people are as well. So, what is your connection with autism?
I'm diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, ADHD and OCD, and also dyslexia. I mean, that's like the biggest connection. And then the second thing is that I run a channel called the Aspie World. I'd say a channel. It's more of like I don't know what you want to call it, a social media kind of presence on everything now, where we just distribute content on advocacy to help educate and understand people, for people to understand and educate themselves on autism. That's basically the entirety of what I do. But my relationship is that obviously I'm on the spectrum. So
I mean, this question will probably be the same answer as to what mine was. But I mean, what made you want to do, YouTube and, I suppose start talking about the things? Because obviously I think at first it's a very hard thing to do. So, I mean, what kind of made you want to do that?
It was really funny actually. Like I actually did it by accident, so I would never intended to do it. But what happened was I googled because I knew nothing about when I had the diagnosis and knew nothing about Asperger's syndrome, so I typed it into Google and YouTube and didn't really find anything that was entertaining or worth watching. All the videos were boring and rubbish. So I was like, wait, maybe I could do some fun and better ones. So I did. I put out some one, and they weren't very good. But people started to subscribe and ask for more, and then I learned more as I did it. And by doing that, then I managed to, by accident, just fall into this trip of making videos because people requested videos and wanted to know more, and I realized that I could help more people. And so by doing more videos and stuff, more people were like super happy, and so that's kind of pretty much how I got into it. And I stuck at it because I realized that the impact on people's lives is so positive, and they get so much out of it that I decided that it'd be a good thing to do more of. So I'm just blessed that I get to do it full time.
I mean, it's amazing as well. I mean, like 122,000 subscribers. It must be great. To know that your content is helping that many people. It must be such a good feeling.
It is. It's a bit weird though. It's like, because you never, I mean, if you put 122,000 people in one area, you'd be like, whoa. But like, because they're all online, you never really stop and think about it, because you're just in that motion of doing stuff. You're just making content, you're replying to people, you're doing the next thing and the next thing. You don't really think about the impact of it. That's why I've got this plaque here from YouTube with the 100,000 subscribers. But it's behind me, so I don't really see it. So, yeah, it is a crazy feeling, but it's a good one. It's a proud feeling.
I mean, it's, I think I've been on YouTube for like 10 years, and I've always kind of stuck at content and changed it along the way. And I think through, I suppose, again, like you, I started watching, I wanted to learn more about, my condition, because I started doing ambassador work for the National Autism Society, and I really kind of wanted to, I mean, I understood how my autism affected me, but I wanted to understand as well how it affected other people. And that's kind of why I started. I started watching people like Connor, people like you, numerous amount of YouTubers, and just liking the stuff. And I thought, why don't I start making videos like that? So in a way, you and the kind of autism community who do the YouTube videos inspired me, to want to go into that area. I mean, what was it like growing up for you?
It was difficult. So my household was quite an interesting one, actually. So my dad worked all the time. So he was out of the house pretty much like 7 days a week. And then my mum was just like raising 3 kids. But my sister isn't atopic, allergic conjunctivitis, eczema, asthma, everything. She's got loads of stuff wrong with her. So she was always in and out of hospital. And then my brother was like a typical kind of gay man. Like, he was into all the art and doing stuff with his friends and, all this kind of crazy stuff. So it was really a difficult time. None of us were really like on the same level. Me and my siblings, no, we didn't really see eye to eye with anything because we never had anything in common really. So that was kind of weird, but I didn't mind it. I liked doing my own thing. But schooling was difficult. School was hard. And I think, right up until I did college, growing up was super difficult because, you had wrong diagnosis the whole time, and of course being out here in Wales, it's not rural, but it's so far away from London. There's no expertise, and it took me until I was 26 to get a professional diagnosis. But until then, just thinking about growing up and stuff, it was just so difficult because no one really understood you, and you're trying to make sense of it yourself, and you're like, oh, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do these things that all these like normal kids can do stuff? So, but it is what it is. I say that it was difficult, but you just have to get through it, and then you go, okay, well, that was that, and I'm moving on.
And did you say it was 26 when you got diagnosed? Was it?
Yeah, it was in 2013.
So did you get diagnosed with, the OCD, dyslexia stuff before that?
No. So the dyslexia I was diagnosed with when I was like super young, like in primary school. I don't know, I was like 11 or something. But then when I was the other stuff, the OCD, ADHD, and Asperger's syndrome all came in the same umbrella all at once from the same diagnosis. So it kind of like that all made sense and fit together quite well, which is quite interesting. And then because you think about it in a different way, then you're thinking, oh yeah, I get it. So it's good. It's good. I did enjoy kind of like figuring out because like you feel less weird then, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, for myself, I mean, I couldn't talk till I was 6, so I mean, there was a lot of obviously making up for it now, but there was a lot of, there's something not quite, I want to say right, but what is right in this world, really?
Yeah, what is it?
But yeah, so mine kind of all came at once. I think the autism came first, and the OCD and the ADHD, and then epilepsy was when I was at college. I was at home one day and I had a fit, and mum and dad thought it was typical teenager having a tantrum over FIFA, and my mum came up and saw me on the floor with blood coming out of my mouth, and then that was it. She was like, ring an ambulance, and that was another thing, I suppose. What's your autism and OCD and dyslexia like now in comparison to what it how it affected you when you were younger?
It's funny. And just to go back to something you said, epilepsy is so common with autism. I have like sleep epilepsy. My brother has epilepsy. My uncle had epilepsy, and my nephew also has epilepsy as well. So it's really common. I don't know why it's come with, but it does come with it. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, being around my brother having grand mals and stuff, that's crazy. Like just like watching him fit so hard. It's like whoa, like breaking his face and didn't know who anybody was, and it was just nuts. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to deal with epilepsy. It's crazy. How those things affect me now compared to how they did when I was a kid. I think it's so much easier now with dyslexia because I use an iPad for everything. So I've got like spell check on there. Like I can dictate to Siri, like, oh, write this email, and he'll write it in my words, and I don't have to physically think about how I'm spelling these things, and like stressing out about spelling things wrong. Because that was a big issue when I was a kid. I'd write something and people would think you were an idiot because like you couldn't spell the word because or whatever, and so it did make me feel super like just alienated in that environment. And people picking up on it as well. People telling you that you're spelling something wrong is like the most pedantically annoying thing ever, but it also has a huge impact. And I still get it now every now and then when I write tweets. If I'm writing tweets on my phone and I've got spell check, I'm just like going for it. And one of my assistants messaged me saying like, oh, spell that wrong, you just feel it like, but I don't care anymore. I'm just like, to me, people get it, and enough people know I've got dyslexia, so what are they going to do? In terms of the other stuff, like the OCD and the ADHD, I did a few cool things. The OCD is what it is. OCD is a difficult one to deal with, but in terms of ADHD, I stopped drinking caffeine about 10 years ago. I also stopped drinking like soda pop like 10 years ago. I say it, so I stopped drinking soda pop about 10 years ago, but I do have like when I've got like agave syrup kind of like soda I have every now and then, but it's not sugared, it's fructose. And then I gave up. I don't drink any alcohol. And I don't have anything really like no sweets, like no like sugars, refined sugars. Because that really helps a lot, So when I was a kid, I couldn't even have like orange juice and stuff because it drive me crazy. But as an adult now, like I can have orange juice. I think it was kind of like because back in the 90s, you think like Sunny Delight and stuff was just packed full of like stuff to make kids hyped anyway. So it just made me even worse, So my parents used to have like a ban on orange juice with me in the house because like it used to make me super hyperactive. And actually, my parents named me Whirlwind when like I used to come in from school because I'd be like just like tornado in the house. And but yeah, it's cool. But I feel so much more calmer now because I've cut like all like nasties out of my diet, and also I'm a vegan as well. So like I cut out a lot of processed foods and nasty chemicals that are in meat and stuff like that. So it kind of helps. Definitely, I actually it was by force that I had to become a vegetarian initially because I got Campylobacter. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but it's a Campylobacter is like a food poisoning that you get from contaminated poultry. So I'd eaten a cooked chicken that was contaminated with raw chicken from a chip shop in Manchester opposite the Science and History Museum, and it made me really sick. Like it incubates like 14 days, and then 14 days after, bang, you get really sick. Like I almost died and everything. I was like puking blood and like had to go to the hospital. Couldn't even drink water. It was really bad. And then they basically said that my gut wouldn't process like meat products then for like 5 years or something. She had to wait 5 years for your gut to heal. So I was like, okay. So I was vegetarian for 5 years. And then after that, you just kind of go, well, I don't fancy meat anymore. You know what I mean? So, and then I watched, I was only eating eggs and I'd have milk meat like in like yogurts, maybe like once a month. So eggs was the only really animal product I was eating because we always have almond milk anyway because we don't really fans of cow's milk. And I watched the Game Changers movie on Netflix, and it was about these guys who are like MMA fighter and like the world's like strongest man competitors and stuff, and they were vegan, and they were talking about why like, scientifically why vegan is proven to be better for your body, and I was like, whoa! So I just kind of gave up anything that had milk in it, basically. And it's amazing how many things have milk in it. Like this is what I mean. You don't think it's just like, oh, I'm just going to cut out meat and dairy and eggs. When you cut out dairy, you're looking at like crisp packets and thinking, oh my goodness, there's milk in this? Like, weird. So weird. Milk's in everything, bro. Like, everything.
I remember I went to a speech with one of my old teachers and he's vegan. And it's like, oh, why don't we have that? You know, there's nothing in that. And he's like, no, it's got that in it. And I'm like, oh, what about this? It's got that in it. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's in everything.
Yeah.
I almost feel like, I almost feel like it's because people have stopped drinking so much cow's milk because, you know, cow's milk is just a fatty lipid, isn't it? It's just like drinking fat. Because I think people have stopped drinking that. The dairy industry is like, well, we need to sprinkle it into other products. So they kind of just, you know, they just distribute it saying, oh, it's a great flavor additive. And then they sell it. You know, I think that's why it's in everything because they're just like, oh, yeah, you put a bit of milk in it.
Actually, really thinking about it, because you're right. There's like nothing you go to now and go, you know, it's not got milk in it. And similarly to you, I started dieting just because I found out I had like kidney disease. Because if it gets too bad, you can lead to dialysis and things like that. So it's like, but a lot of the weight I put on was my epilepsy tablets. You know, I found as soon as I went on epilepsy meds, you know, I put on like 8 stone. You know, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's kind of why when people say to me now about medicine for, you know, autism or ADHD or all that stuff, I really go against it. You know, it's like I prefer to get proper CBT or behavioural therapy stuff, you know, and
yeah,
rather than just go take some medicine.
Yeah, I think you've got to look at what works for you. You know, that's the best way. I mean, I've always been a person who takes like supplements for things, you know, like vitamins and minerals and stuff, and then exercising and therapy. But I got to a point in my life last year where, you know, I for my conditions, excuse me, medication was the only way to deal with that, and I feel so much better being on the medication. But again, you've got to see what works for you. And I was just like you, and I'm well dead against kind of having meds. But then again, it's how it impacts. You know, if you need it, you need it at the end of the day. So
I'd say my OCD got really bad, and I'm on OCD medicine for that because I mean, I was, for instance, emptying dishwashers at 12 o'clock at night, and you're looking 100 times to cross the road, and it was all like because I felt if I didn't do it, you know, like mum and dad were going to die or something like that, you know. So there's a lot of kind of, that's the thing, OCD I think is so hard to understand, you know. So I don't know, that was one of my questions was, you know, I suppose how does, you know, how do your other conditions affect you?
I think like, you know, OCD is a really interesting one. It's probably one of the most, like OCD and Asperger's syndrome are the two conditions that are most impacting in my life, obviously. So Asperger's syndrome because of like, you know, the way the brain works and digesting communication and content through, you know, talking to new people or socializing and all that kind of stuff, and understanding those unwritten rules. That's difficult to deal with. Excuse me.
Sorry.
But OCD is like, oh, it's crazy. I know exactly what you mean. Like putting towels back the same way or rotating them a certain amount of times so that, you know, they have to be the same way because you have this feeling like your confidence to be like, no, I'm just going to leave it. But you feel it, you think like, oh no, but I know that this is like it's upset the routine of the universe or whatever, and it's upset that kind of motion, and it's going to lead to this domino effect, and those people are, something bad's going to happen.
It's like the butterfly effect. You feel if you don't, you know, it's something's, you know, some predetermined fate is going to be affected.
Yeah, and you're like breaching the rules of it, and so that it's super difficult. It's like what it does. It affects me. Like I'm late for things all the time because like leaving the house, it takes me like forever. because I want to make sure things are right. And then like, and the weird thing about it is like, I love routine and like I love organizing stuff and having things in the right way and doing things in a certain format, and then going back to the start to do it. But I enjoy doing things in a good manner, and that's the Asperger syndrome. But the things that I don't enjoy is the terrified feeling that something bad's going to happen if I don't, tap things a certain way, or like tap my head, or you know what I mean, and all those things. And because of that, that infuriates me, and it gives you kind of die a little bit inside when you have to do those things, because you're like, because it starts to control you. It controls how you are in that situation. I've never had any medication for that though. And is this a question? Does it work? Does the medication work?
That's a good question. I didn't think I'd get a question. I'll tell you what, it did. It did. At first, I was really against it. I felt it's just a tablet. It's not going to change the way I think. It's at the end of the day, I'm not buying into this like placebo effect. I think friends and family help. If I didn't have my friends and family there, I think the tablets wouldn't have made a difference. I think it was all a combining factor of what made it work. But I remember not worrying about it as much, and then I was able to listen to the advice of my friends and family because of that. I remember I used to have to do a whole ritual of when I used to go to the park with my friends, and then I used to walk my friends back to their houses, and my best friend would then see me walk down the road. Every draining board I would jump on and then look 100 times before moving off it. And then every road I crossed, I'd done that as well. I had a kid come up to me one day and said, "Why can't you just cross the road?" And as you know, like people with OCD try and hide it as much as they can. So you're like, "No, I'll cross the road fine." To the point where when I was at school, I used to jump up the stairs. I couldn't walk up them. So I used to have like 10 flight of stairs, and I'd have to jump on every step, and I hid it. And, the teacher was like, "I don't know that you do that." And I was like, "Well, I do that every morning." So anyway, one day they were like, "Just walk home, just try walking home. I promise nothing bad will happen, just do it." And you can imagine if something bad went wrong, my God. But
yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
But I done it, I walked home, and then, that night as well, my dad asked me not to do any of my rituals. He said, "Promise you nothing bad will happen." And then I did, and that was it. From that point, I just didn't do them anymore. I still have a few, I check the taps, because once I flooded the house, that was a ritual, wetting my hair. So I left the taps running one night, so I always check the taps now. Always check that the door's locked. And since my dog died as well, I used to say, my dog was very part of my routine. I'd look at my dog before I went, and then
my dog as well.
It's weird. I used to look at my dog before I went. I used to go, "Right, see you later, I love you," and then I'd go back in again just to make sure the lights are off, and then say it again to him. And obviously, he's not there anymore. Yeah. So we've got like a massive picture frame of him on the wall. We've got his urn, on the cabinet. And I say it to those items now instead, because it's still part of my routine.
Part of that. Yeah, like I do something similar, like because it's weird, isn't it? It's like it's small parts of random things in your life that then become these huge, like these rituals. And it's weird because like coming downstairs to the office, chilling out, everything's fine. But if I have to go out, I have to like tell my dog, like I kiss him and tell him, and then I have to like wave at him. I know it sounds stupid, like wave at him, but I have to like make a circle with this hand and point with this hand.
Yeah.
Right. And so nobody knows this. This is funny because the first time I ever talking about it. And then then I have to I think I kiss him once, and I have to wave at him like 3 times, like, and then a lot of the time my stuff is in threes as well. So like my hands are wrecked from washing my hands, like that,
See, mine's in 2s or 4s. It's always got to be like an even number for me. So if it's not 4, it's got to be 6. If it's not 6, it's got to be 8. It just carry on. Hence the 100. It started off probably being 20, and it led to that.
That's another thing. Like I found myself like I don't know. You'll understand this. So like when I was washing my hands, I was like 1, 2, 3. Then I'd be like, "Oh, was that right? Did I do it right?" So I do it again. you do it like you're there for ages, and you're like, when is it going to end? And then even when you've done it, and then you kind of like, you're never confident enough. Sometimes you're just like, I'm just going to do it, and then you're sitting there worried about the fact that you didn't do that right.
When I had the rituals before I went on the tablets, I used to do that with my hands, but I used to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'd lose, and it always had to end on the right hand as well. So I'd start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'd go,
the wrong hand.
One, and then it would be like that.
How far back do you go to reset the routine? Yeah,
I'd have to do it, again and again until it landed, and I was confident with the number. It used to drive my mum and dad mad, because they'd hear the taps running in the bedroom. They'd be going, "Oh my God," She didn't mind the dishwasher thing, emptying the dishwasher at 12, because it saved my mum doing a job. But carry on doing that; it's fine. What do you think the government should be doing, around autism and employment and schools? Because obviously, exclusions are at the highest. Employment rate is still at 16%. So I just wondered what your thoughts was on that, really.
I briefed the European Council on this, the European kind of like Parliament, in January on this exact thing, and I think that we need to look at ways of, or like programs to include autistic people in like job applications, where it's not a negative thing. So if you say like, oh, this person is autistic, okay, cool, we already have a department that this could be utilized in, so you interview for those departments. So some program where it's used properly. And then the other thing is schooling. I did a video on this talking about schools, and autism school, like special needs schools, are they better than just trying to have a Senko inside a mainstream school?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's 50-50 here. You could have, the experience of going to a mainstream school gives you that kind of like I went to a mainstream school with no support, so I was forced into areas, but I think I gained from that. Even though I actually have trauma from doing that, I also gained kind of like workarounds, and I figured out, like, I learned loads about friends and things from that perspective, because I was around people who weren't in special education needs. They were just do this, and you kind of learn from those, and it's kind of cool. But then if I was in a special educational needs school, I would have had this kind of like a better education. I would have had actual grades. I wouldn't have been so traumatized. I would have had a way more chill time. I wouldn't have gone to school just like absolutely dripping in anxiety the whole time, but then again, would I have learned those skills being around other people and, of typical neurotypical people? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So,
I mean, obviously I went to a mainstream school which had an ASD unit, and the unit, and I have to say, it wasn't a great unit, because it just seemed that they wanted people that had conditions who got on okay, and then the people that struggled or shown first signs of struggle could count. So, I mean, for me, I always think education in a mainstream school would probably be, for me, I think the education at my mainstream school was better. And that wasn't no fault of the teachers at the special needs school. It was just, we were in an environment where we couldn't really learn, because a lot of people had different needs and different experiences, and a lot of them would, get up and get angry and walk out and disrupt the lessons and all that stuff. Then I'd say the support at the special school was really good, so as you say, it's a hard question, isn't it, for you to kind of pinpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, excuse me, I think that, all schools should have like trained staff in autism, and all schools should have trained teaching assistants in autism as well, because like they ain't never going to know otherwise. Like, how are they supposed to know? Like, you can only say like, oh, the school curriculum isn't accommodating for autism, but well, how many people in there are trained with people with autism? And that's another thing, excuse me, the current curriculum is set up for neurotypical people. So how on earth are you supposed to expect people on the spectrum to even do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not accommodating and it's not accessible. That's the big thing, is accessibility, right?
I mean, what annoys you, I suppose, the most around, autism and I suppose people, people understanding, or just something that might annoy you around the whole kind of subject? And for you, I mean, what's your biggest obstacle for you, with autism?
So you've asked two questions there, and I'll answer the first one. I'll answer the second one then. So the first one was like, what annoys me the most, and people who don't understand that, when you say to someone like, "Oh yeah, yeah," so I'm on the spectrum. Oh really? I couldn't tell. I didn't notice. It's like, well, I'm not asking you for your PhD in psychology. I'm just really telling you something that, you know what I mean? It's kind of like someone saying to me like, "Oh, I've got a heart disease." Well, I couldn't tell. It's like you would never say that to somebody. You're so rude. And so that really, really, that gets to me so much, because then it makes you feel like, you think like, are they saying I'm lying? You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell? So that's my biggest pet peeve, but I try not to let it impact my life. Oh yeah, the biggest obstacle, I think the social anxiety is the worst one, because I can't go anywhere without anybody. So like, one of my dreams is like, I always wanted to like, get on a train and go to London and just like sit in the city centre outside a cafe having a coffee or whatever. Well, I don't drink coffee, but having a cup of tea. And I could never do that, because it's too much, man. It's too overwhelming for me. It's too overwhelming to get on a train. I wouldn't know how to get there. My navigation is terrible. I'd be just like riddled with anxiety. Oh God, like just, that's really hard. That's a tough one, because like I want to do that so much. Like I want to, because it makes you feel less of an adult, like a 33-year-old man who can't even go to get a coffee in London, and friends, I know people who like 18, 19 who like live in London, just moved there, like I've moved to London to make a career myself. I'm thinking, wow, how these people do it. I'm so envious. Like it's crazy.
That's the thing. I think the biggest thing though as well is comparison. We all do it all the time. We always compare ourselves to others and think, well, why can't I do that? But at the end of the day, there's probably loads of things that you do, that someone else might not be able to do. Like we all have our like strengths and weaknesses, and it's nothing that you should ever like feel, oh, why can't I do that? This is true story as well. When I train to places, my mum has to write down, what tube I need to get off at, what tube I need to get on. And I'm 20, I'm 23. A lot of people will be like, why can't you just look at instructions and know where you're going? But I can't do that. And there's still a lot of things I can't do. I can't cook. I'm useless with that sort of stuff. I'd love to be able to just go, let's cook this tonight and be able to do it confidently. But I just would like mad.
Yeah.
It's, as I say, it's nothing ever you should be ashamed of. It's just that's how it affects you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's just, I don't know what it is. I think it's just because, I don't know, you always see yourself in a certain light, don't you? And like you always think like, oh, I want to be able to do that. And I don't know, when I am in, like, 'cause I go to London all the time. When I am in London and when I'm driving around, I always kind of look at like people just living their life in the city, and I'm like, wow, man, like it's just sit there in awe, thinking how these people doing this is crazy good. So
Yeah.
because my doctor thought it was agoraphobia when I was a kid. Which is a fear of not being in a safe place, not a fear of big places. So people always forget that. People think fear of agoraphobia is the opposite of claustrophobia, but it's not. Agoraphobia is a fear of not knowing the safest exit of something, basically. Well, it's kind of like, and it makes sense, like if you're in a big city, it's open and exposed, so you can't feel safe when you're open and exposed.
No.
So
True. That is really, I never knew that. And I probably feel that quite a lot. When I go into supermarkets, I tend to, I often become disorientated. It's like I'm there, but I'm not. It's like
you're going through the motions, but you're not even, you're like, what? I know, man. I 100% get what you're coming from.
My last question would be is, what would you want people to take from this video, this kind of interview?
I guess just to think twice about when you thinking about autism in people, and how those individual needs can be so traumatic for people, I guess, because we've been talking a lot about deep stuff, I guess, and a lot of my videos are always like super like upbeat, and I'm talking about serious stuff that's upbeat, but this one's kind of an interesting one because I have to reflect on my stuff, which is quite cool, I guess. So, but I think it's like people need to just kind of hang back a minute, like if they see you in a store freaking out, it's not because you're being an idiot, because there's something going on, there's an underlying issue there. So I think people need to think twice. And I think the takeaway from this is to be like, open your mind up a little bit, to possibilities of other people's conditions. And I think that'll make the world a much nicer place.
I totally agree. I think because it's an invisible, thing as well, people don't see it, people don't acknowledge it, and people just presume, that everyone's fine and hasn't got anything underlying, and it's just about taking that second, isn't it? And it's the same as if we see someone in a wheelchair and they fall over, we don't all look at them and go idiot. We help them up. We get them back and we make sure that they're okay. But the minute we
100%.
see somebody, I suppose, having a meltdown or something, we think whatever, and it's just such a backwards way of thinking, really. I think
it is, and I think that's only because most people are just unfamiliar with it, and so that's why it's important that we make videos like this, because it's just familiarity. When people are familiar with something, they kind of spot it, and that's why sometimes I get stick from people saying why are you outing people with autism? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? When I do hey, 5 ways you can tell someone's on the spectrum. People saying why are you outing them? I'm like, well, I'm not outing them. I'm equipping people with tools so they can see something and they can help when they need to. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much it. So it's funny. It's funny that people have something to say about everything, don't they? But it's so important that we equip people with the tools, the right tools, to know what to do.
Exactly. We can't say, well, no, we're not getting support, and people don't understand if we're then not allowing people to do that.
Yeah.
But no, well, thank you for speaking to me. It's been really, really good. I suppose, have you got any news or any plans you want to share coming up?
Sure. So I've just released a free ebook, literally today, actually, on my socials. So you can get it from any of my social medias, and it's 7 ways to hack life with autism. So it's kind of a cool way to cool life hacks, basically my dailies, how I get around things, which is super cool. So and it's free to download. You can get it anywhere now, anywhere social media, it's pinned to the top of those things. So definitely check it out. And I have a webinar coming soon. I'm going to do training on it, an actual webinar show, a live show. It's gonna be cool next week, so I'm kind of pumped about that. So
perfect. Well, again, thank you for speaking to me, and hopefully we do some stuff in the future, and thank you as well. And that's brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
Thanks, mate. All right, mate.
So guys, that was the last episode of this series of the Autism Connections. I want to say thank you to all the guests as well for coming on to the show and telling me their stories and just raising the awareness of autism and other conditions as well. I feel I've learnt a lot from the series, and I hope that other people have taken away things that they didn't know about autism or any other condition. I just want to say again, thanks to all the guests. It was brilliant interviewing them, and it was just incredible. So thank you for making this series what it was. So thank you again, and I will be back soon with a normal video on the channel. But guys, tell me what you thought of the series, and guys, thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye for now.